Hey, this is Chris as we go through the history of art, and we've just completed the High Renaissance, and now we moved on to Mannerism. It's still kind of strange for me to say, okay, at 1000 AD, we start this quest to Florence in Italy to become the new ancient Rome and Greece and to take on Aristotle and Socrates and all their thoughts about humanism and the intelligence of the human mind and the brain and the beauty of the figure and nature and to study and to be so intelligent. And as we get closer and closer into the Renaissance period, you start to see this giant ship turning to the left or to the right and now starting heading that direction. And a little at a time, we get to this crescendo of Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael and say, oh my gosh, look at this work, and they're spectacular. And they reach a pinnacle that these three geniuses do things that personally I don't think anyone's ever done before. Not to mention all the architecture and everything that's done in Florence at that time, thanks to the Medici money and the idea of helping the artists become one community. As we venture into a new period of art, we're now into Mannerism, and it's almost like, gosh, no one's going to do it, not making this up, but if no one's going to do it like Michelangelo and Leonardo, and then we're going to do our own thing. And what if we look for the beauty in things, and instead of making the perfect proportion like Leonardo's body, and you have so many heads down and whatever it is, and you say, well, that maybe beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Different talk about Vasari and Hume and different art historians, Ruskin, that how they talk about art's perception is no longer perfect proportions, but it's actually the way you make a mark or the carving with a crayon that could be beautiful, evoking a mood. A different talk, I can't get sidetracked. So Mannerism is this, one of the phases is best shown by Parmigianino and elongating the figure. So let me show you what he does. So you have the S curve is still going on, going from one side to the other and leading you to the other side. So that S curve for creating movement and grace is still there in the picture. But what you're noticing now is the neck might be just a little longer and her shoulders are tiny and frail. But what if I made her body come out longer? And you know where this actually happens? Michelangelo's sculpture piece of the Pietà in Rome at St. Peter's, the body of Mary is much bigger than it should have been in proportion to the figure, but it had to be larger to hold the weight, or I think the marble cracks and breaks. So Michelangelo understood the problems with the physics and the weight. So is it possible Parmigianino takes this and says, I think that's beautiful in its own way. Now, again, he's not talking to me and I'm making the whole thing up. So this elongating of the figures and making everything bigger and longer, because the longer that figure is, the more graceful it is. And then what better way to make it longer, but let's go ahead and bellow out her shirt and make it even longer. So it makes the body look like, it's much farther along or much farther and even bigger. And you're just telling the world that there's beauty in the elongating of the figure. And you're still lighter and darker than the background. The hand's lighter, the head's darker, the background's darker, her stomach is lighter, the baby's lighter, and then areas in here are darker. So you still have some of the past coming with you. And you'll notice that in art history, by the way. Art history never jumps. If you walk the museums chronologically, what I would do as I were you, I'd start in the first room and say, okay, 1280, what am I looking at? What do I see? Pattern and texture. Then I walk into the next room. What do I see? Oh gosh, now there's frames being incorporated into the painting. It's not just a painting anymore. And then the next room, what do I see? Oh, now you're seeing textures and 3D shapes of texture and pattern in the painting. And then the next room, every 25, 50 years, now the textures are in the frames and it's in the painting and they're one and the same. And then there's painting on the frames as well as the pictures. And you see art taking pieces from the past as someone invents something new. You have the S curve, you have the figure-ground relationship, the contrapposto where you're lighter and darker than the background, and now you have the elongating of figures. Parmigiano, Mannerism, and we're headed to Baroque, but not just yet. I can't skip one more artist, and that is Tintorito.